George Washington Carver was born a slave during the Civil War. Within a few weeks, his father, who belonged to the next farm over, was killed in a log hauling accident. Shortly after the Civil War, while still an infant, bushwhackers from the Democrat South kidnapped George along with his mother and his sister. Moses Carver, a German immigrant, sent friends to track down the thieves and trade his best horse to retrieve them. Well, they tied up the horse. When they came back, there's no mom, there's no sister, just lying in a blanket on the ground, dying of whooping cough, was little baby George. He is, from this point on, always having health problems. And so as a result, Susan Carver keeps him in the house and teaches him cooking, sewing, weaving, mending, and these are skills that later served him greatly. His recreation was to spend time in the woods. Once he was out in the woods and he had the impression that someone had been there before him. And he said not only had someone been there, someone was there. And he talks about feeling the presence of the Lord. And they had a little church house, and Carver talks about one day he was playing with a friend, and the boy said he was going to Sunday school the next day, and Carver asked him what Sunday school was. He said they sang hymns and prayed. He said he asked him what prayer was. He said, I don't remember what the boy told me, just remember as soon as he left, I went into the loft and prayed as best I could. I don't remember what I said. I just remember I felt so good, I did it several times before I quit. The Carvers supported George's decision to leave the home and attended a school in Neosho, Missouri. He learned all that Schoolmaster Foster could teach him. He goes to Iowa, and he is working as a cook at a hotel and doing laundry. While he's there, he visits churches in the evening, white churches. And so one day, a man comes to the hotel and invites him home for dinner. And he said he arrived at the house and noticed the lady was one of the ladies in the choir of the church he had visited the past week. She said that his fine voice attracted her attention. He said, from that day forward, every week I would go to the John and Helen Mulholland's house and recite everything I did during the week. And they would always say, how can one person do so much stuff? Well, they interceded for him to help him get accepted into Simpson College, which was a college of art, literature, and music. His art teacher notices how well he painted plants, and she suggests he go into agriculture. And so he goes to Iowa State Agricultural Institute in Mechanical Arts, and he gets his bachelor's degree and then his master's degree. And so George is hired as a teacher at Iowa State. And then in the spring of 1896, he gets a letter from Booker T. Washington. Well, in the fall of 1896, George Washington Carver surprised the staff at Iowa State College by announcing his plans to leave, give up his promising future, and then accept Booker T. Washington's offer to teach at Tuskegee. The staff at Iowa State showed their appreciation by purchasing Carver a microscope, which he used extensively throughout his career. George visited the nearby farms, and he would teach them farming techniques that he had learned at Iowa State. Well, one of the things was he noticed that the soil was depleted of nutrients due to years of repeated cotton growth. Then, in addition to this, the boll weevil destroyed cotton crops, leaving the farmers devastated. So George showed the farmers the benefits of crop rotation and planting legumes, plants that have a root system that actually puts nitrogen back into the soil. And so the farmers heeded Carver's advice, but soon they had more peanuts than the market could warrant, and so he decides to come up with uses for the peanut to create an industry. Carver is credited with discovering and or popularizing hundreds of uses for the peanut, soybean, sweet potato, pecans, cowpeas, wild plums, and okra, which helped revolutionize the South's economy. Well, George was asked by the farmers to go to Congress and ask them for a tariff tax on imported peanuts to help the domestically grown peanuts. So Carver addressed Congress. He met with Presidents Teddy Roosevelt, Calvin Coolidge, and Franklin Roosevelt. He was offered jobs by Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. Edison offered him a six-figure income, but he turned it down because he wanted to spend his time helping his people in the South. Carver received correspondence from business and world leaders, including Harvey Kellogg, Gandhi, and Stalin. George Washington Carver died January 5th, 1943. Well, years before then, in 1928, Carver stated, "Human need is really a great spiritual vacuum which God seeks to fill. With one hand in the hand of a fellow man in need and the other in the hand of Christ, he could get across the vacuum. Then the passage, 'I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me,' came to have real meaning." As I worked on projects which fulfilled a real human need, forces were working through me that amazed me. I would often go to sleep at night with an insoluble problem. When I woke, the answer was there. Why then should we who believe in Christ be so surprised what God can do with a willing man in a laboratory? Some things must be baffling to the critic who has never been born again. Thank you so much. God bless you.